Okay, second part of today's course. We found our literature, we know how to cite it, not quite there yet, because since we need to deal with a lot of literature, we also need to find a good way to manage it on our end, let's say on our computer, to be practical. Yeah? How do you typically do that? I mean, you all did a literature search before, seminar paper, bachelor thesis. How do you organize the literature and deal with the literature that you already found? Yeah. Very good. Very good. why did I suspect you to say that? Okay, there's also Citavi, yes. The commonality to both your answers is, which I like both your answers. I would say the important thing is you use reference management tools. Very good. All of you are familiar with reference management tools or other approaches? Oh, so, okay. Yeah. I'm curious. You found PDFs. How do you come from the PDF to, okay, author X said this in your thesis?
I wrote like one short Hausarbeit, and
Yeah.
I only used bibliography for that. Like when you write in LaTeX or in Overleaf,
Yeah.
you can add a bibliography.
Yes.
And then I just put all of the papers in the bibliography and then like search directly from
Okay.
and have that there. So I didn't use Citavi or something,
Hmm.
but I also only had like, I don't know, 10 papers or something.
Okay, but you still need to know, what to take out of these papers. Why they are relevant and so on. So how do you make notes, for example, and how do you manage them?
I think I just had them open on my laptop.
Okay.
So
Well, if it works, if it's like 5 papers, okay.
yeah, it worked for
But
a short amount.
yeah, I mean, like the typical bachelor thesis has what I would say, it's my guess, 50 references. The typical master thesis probably around 100, somewhere in between. And a PhD thesis, well, maybe I'm not a good example, but I mean, I had like 400. So then opening them on your laptop becomes not an option anymore. Yeah. How else? How did you take notes or know what to cite from papers or?
Just look at other papers that cited the paper, and then you just compute them.
Don't recommend that. I know that people do it, but I wouldn't recommend just quoting other authors what they said about the paper. You should check yourself whether it's actually, and why I say that, not just because it's the right thing to do. Authors cite papers for different things. Yeah, so there can be many aspects in a paper that some are relevant for this group of researchers, some are relevant for that group of researchers. I don't think it's the best way. It's possible, of course, but it's not the best way to just say or repeat in a way what other authors said. And especially for a master thesis, I wouldn't recommend that. I would really check whether this paper is relevant for what I want to do, and cite it or do not cite it if it is. Okay, so who has heard of reference management tools at all? You? No. The others not. You? Okay. Zotero, Mendeley, Citavi, Jabref. No, good. Well, then some of you will hear something new. That's good. So let's start at the beginning. I think all of you have heard about BibTeX, right? I mean, you're data scientists, computer scientists. I think if I asked this question because if I ask this question in humanities, they say, what? yeah, this is this weirdly formatted reference strings that they sometimes have on publisher sites that, yeah, something like that. No, that it is a metadata format, plain text. It's cool. I mean, it's a standard. It became a standard because it has good sides. It also has some downsides. First of all, this is just metadata. Yeah, so you still need to find an approach to have the metadata of your paper, have the file, the PDF itself, have the annotations, and whatever you else want from this paper. Yeah? What is nice about it, plain text, perfect for version control. Yeah? So you can just manage your BibTeX with your code repository or whatever. Very cool. Also very easy to add new papers because you just add another entry. So it's great. In a plain text file, no order or something required, just stick to the convention and you have another entry. How to get BibTeX data, you already mentioned that. Very often it's just available on academic search engines like Google Scholar, on publisher sites, and so on. I think you've all seen that you get this metadata. Now, linking back to what I said previously, be aware of the approach of search engines, of academic search engines like Google Scholar, Semantic Scholar also. They crawl, they do automatic processing. And this data is not always correct. And in fact, for Google Scholar, it's often quite dirty. It's quite bad. It's lacking a lot of things, or even things are incorrect. I know specifically for this one, because yeah, I mean, this literature review was a lot of work, but it was not 112 pages. This is just wrong. I think they mispassed that for like the edition of this journal or something, like the issue number or something they got wrong. Yeah? So this is a small example. There are bigger errors, just because I needed an example quickly. I know from my own papers. But be aware of this. In Google Scholar, the BibTeX is often quite dirty because they do, crawling. There is also, I don't know, if you deal with a lot of papers and you like Google Scholar, there's a Chrome extension that makes it a bit easier, so you don't need to navigate to Google Scholar. You just have a little search bar and can search Google Scholar right away, and then such a widget pops up here, and you can search it right away. I don't know. Publishers, as I said, BibTeX data, other reference management exchange formats are often available at publisher sites. The big advantage here is, as I said, they have much better quality data in most cases, because they either collect it directly from the authors or they do some manual curation and so on. So this data is typically much better than Semantic Scholar or Google Scholar, both in terms of completeness and in terms of errors, just wrong entries. Very, very good source. I mean, it's their main business for metadata, for BibTeX data, specifically in computer science, is DBLP. Everybody familiar with this service? It's a free service, actually hosted in Germany, University of Trier. Very cool service because it covers really, their goal is to cover all of computer science. So if you search a paper in computer science, you can even use it as a search tool, let's say, because they really cover all computer science venues they can think of. Manually expert curated, so that they decide this is a computer science venue, this not, we include it, and so on. And very, very high quality data in terms of metadata. And they offer nice export formats, also different versions of, because they're computer scientists, different versions of BibTeX, with abbreviated journals, without abbreviated journals, journals separately, and so on. A lot of options and very high quality data. What I recommend as a general approach is, if there is a DOI, everybody familiar with the DOI, Digital Object Identifier? Yeah? What may not all of you may know is there's a service associated with the DOI resolver that also provides metadata. So via the DOI, you cannot just resolve a URL and go to wherever the source is where you can download the PDF, but there's typically also metadata in the backend. And there are tools like DOI to Bib that use this hidden service, let's say this hidden API of the DOI resolver, to get you the metadata. Yeah? So you can just input a DOI, for example, in this tool, and we will see other options, and get your BibTeX out of it. Yeah? There are also, this is a variant of the DOI standard, which I don't really recommend. I will explain why in a second, but short DOI. You can convert every DOI, because they are sometimes quite long, into a short DOI that is also unique, resolves to the same source, but just saves you some space in papers. I think it's not that relevant for you with a thesis, because a thesis typically doesn't have a page limit. It's more relevant if you're really pressed for pages, as it's the case for most journals and conferences. They tell you exactly, you have 10 pages, ACM style, including references. So you better keep the references as short as possible because you want to put your content into the paper. Yes? And then sometimes search for ways to make the references shorter. Why I don't recommend it if you're really not hard pressed for space is because you kind of well, defeat the purpose of a unique identifier, yeah? If you create another unique identifier that is just shorter. So it's harder for scrapers like Google Scholar to match these documents and so on. So you introduce a source of error. So if you can avoid it, and I think for thesis you can avoid it, I would recommend you not to use it. If you ever do a PhD and you're hard pressed for space in your paper, then maybe. But yeah, the important thing to know is you can use the DOI to get really high quality data, metadata of your paper in BibTeX format, other formats, because this data typically is also provided by the authors to the publisher or directly to the DOI service. So there's no scraping involved, but they directly get it from the source. Of course, same thing. Pretty much all the sources that we mentioned earlier for the papers itself or for searching papers, they typically now have also BibTeX data, typically BibTeX data because it's like the least common, how's that called, the denominator? Kleinster gemeinsamer Nenner, yeah, for exchange formats. So most reference management tools can work with BibTeX. If they cannot work with BibTeX, it's a weird tool, I have to say. Now, we actually want to look at two reference managers. So what is a reference manager? As the name suggests, it helps you manage your cited sources, your references in your work, or in general also your entire literature collection. So not just for one project, for one thesis, for one paper. You can use them, and most researchers use them for just managing all their literature that they read and work with. I will present you two systems, two tools that proved very valuable in our own work. It's a personal preference from, let's say, it's informed by a lot of testing actually, but it might not be the ideal tool for you, but we tell you the pros and cons that we see. One is more lightweight, JabRef. It's more really focused on BibTeX management, not so much on everything else, but it's really, let's say, a graphical user interface to facilitate working with BibTeX. And the other one is Zotero, as you mentioned, which would be my recommendation to you for a, let's say, full-scale solution. But we will look at them in detail. So what is BibTeX? As I said, BibTeX is in the end primarily a graphical user interface operating on a plain text BibTeX file. Yeah? So you get a nice tabular overview of whatever is in your BibTeX file. It makes it easier to search, to interact, and so on. You have the option to graphically edit entries in your BibTeX file. So it's again stored back to the BibTeX file, which avoids making errors with, I don't know, the brackets or the semicolons or I don't know what, yeah, using the wrong entry type or I don't know. You can do that via the interface. You can do, it has some organizational features. So especially if you maintain one file, one collection for all your literature, you typically want to do some grouping by project or by research field or whatever. BibTeX has such functionality, grouping, tagging, and so on that is stored in addition to the BibTeX file. It has, but these are pretty, well, let's say, rudimentary annotation options for PDF. So you can make notes on your files. First of all, they allow you to link to PDF files. Of course, it's not possible to store the PDF file in the BibTeX, but to insert a link that then links to somewhere on your machine, you know, to have at least, if you saw this, where can we see it ideally? So here you would see there is at least a linked PDF for these entries. Yeah? So whatever has a little icon here means in the BibTeX file we inserted, in this case, a file system link where the PDF is located. Of course, this can break. Sure, you know, if you move it, then the link breaks. It also has the option to sort of insert these file links automatically if you, for example, define a watch folder. Yeah, so you just define directory on your machine where you put all your PDFs, all your paper PDFs in, then if you follow a certain naming convention, JabRef is able to link this automatically to your entries in the BibTeX file. We have that, but yeah, actually the annotation options here are quite limited. You can view PDF annotations that you make, like with the regular, PDF comments and highlights and so on. Highlights, I'm not sure, but comments for sure, that you make in a PDF in JabRef. But I wouldn't call this very intuitive or very, easy to maintain. It's not their main goal. The main goal is really on facilitated BibTeX management. They have a search option, so you can search different sites, different publishers, academic search engines directly from within the tool. Saves you some click work to go to your browser and search for papers. They also have the DOI-based lookup that I explained based on a separate tool built into their tool. So you can use this functionality of entering a DOI, finding the metadata. And what is cool about BibTeX, I really like that, cool about JabRef, they allow you to do a diff of entries you may already have in your BibTeX file. So that's actually why I use sometimes JabRef in addition to Zotero, which is my main thing, because this functionality is better in JabRef than in Zotero. Imagine, for example, you downloaded the paper from arXiv, including the metadata. Then you typically have, I don't know, arXiv identifier, whatever, preprint. So, and now you find the same paper via a DOI, the final published version. Then it allows you very easily to take this DOI, retrieve the metadata of the final version that has been published, and just change or complete or replace the fields that have actually changed for your reference entry. And you don't end up with 2 or even more entries for, let's say, the same source, but one, let's say, consolidated source of the final published paper. So this is really neat. And I like that because ideally you should, if there is a later paper, you should, unless you want to say, okay, it was published in 2017 and it was the first one of its kind, then it might make sense to cite the preprint directly, but otherwise it's typically better to cite the peer-reviewed, quality-assured final paper. So yeah, these lookup and completion of entries, this is pretty cool in JabRef. And what is also very good in JabRef, and even better than in Zotero, is whenever you need to do something in bulk. If you need to correct something in entries because you decided to do something else, I don't know, use a different tag or keyword or something, normalize the cases, I don't know, use the LaTeX escaping of umlauts, or not use UTF-8 and so on. Everything that you need to do for a lot of entries or even all entries, that's very easy and error-free to do via the JabRef interface. They have a good bulk editing features. And they also help you with typical cleanup features like normalize all the page numbers, that they have the same hyphen, or I don't know. That is really cool. So in summary, what is good about JabRef? It's very lightweight, and the storage is basically just a BibTeX file. Everything that they store happens in the BibTeX file. They have really good advanced search, like with regular expressions and so on. Not so sure I should list Java as a pro. Yeah, it runs on Java, so it's platform independent. I would prefer if they do something else to be platform independent, but that's what they do. At least it is actually platform independent. Yeah, so if you can run Java, you can run JabRef. That's fine. Yeah, so if you have, I don't know, an exotic Linux distribution, as long as Java runs, then you can also get JabRef to run. Open source, active community. This is really an important factor because not all tools are. And yeah, of course, the community provides a lot of, the community is researchers. Yeah, who uses such a tool? It's researchers. And the feature requests and the error, bug fixes and so on that they propose are useful for most of the time because these are the people working with the tool. And JabRef actually is quite active in improving and implementing those and making it happen. So yeah, that's definitely a pro for this. Cons, there is no web-based version, so it really only works on your machine. If you go, I don't know, to a library computer and so on, and you quickly need to add a reference, you need to, I don't know, email you the string or something, I don't know. So no real support there. There is no word processor support aside from, well, LaTeX, of course, you can use BibTeX, and but no, like, for example, it's not so relevant here, I would say. Who's working, is sometimes working with Word of you? Only LaTeX? You sometimes? I sometimes do for very short documents, or documents I write with people who are not computer scientists. I sometimes do, actually. So there's not much help here from JabRef for this kind of tasks. No file handling. You have to do the file management on your machine and link to the correct places in your machine and so on. And I showed you that you can see the PDF annotations that you made in the PDF, but you cannot jump there. So it's not that you can click on an annotation and the PDF opens and you go there. That's not supported in JabRef. As I said, they have very rudimentary PDF annotation capabilities. Sort of a expert feature that I used sometimes in the past, but might not be relevant for all of you. They offer the option of exporting this file into a SQL database, actually, which you then can, of course, edit quite nicely with a lot of people, as long as they also are a little bit familiar with SQL. So you can actually turn it into a real database and back into a BibTeX file and so on and so forth. This is their way of enabling collaborative editing other than with, let's say, version management like GitHub. Yeah? So you can really do live editing on the same BibTeX file via this SQL feature. In conclusion, it's a good tool, definitely. For some use cases, even I'm a Zotero guy, I use it. Specifically, if you need to do a lot of bulk changes or specific tasks, and of course, it's primarily focused on LaTeX users because BibTeX is pretty much all they do. Now, for the overall solution that we use in our group a lot after testing. I don't know, we've tested a lot of tools, actually. We tested Mendeley. Mendeley was not bad, but they turned commercial, and I don't know, they go the Apple way and hide more and more features and make it hard to access and so on. So I don't know, for computer science guys that typically want to configure their stuff, it's not the best tool anymore. That's why we actually switched to Zotero, because especially if, like in our case, we're a research group, so a lot of people, a lot of papers, and we want to have some freedom in how we want to organize things and so on, then Zotero is definitely the better way, because they allow you pretty much, they have more the Android approach. Yeah, they give you any configuration feature you want as long as you make it happen. Yeah, but of course the overhead is also higher. Anyway, Zotero is a fully fledged, full-featured reference management tool. It means metadata, files, and annotations all in one place, PDF annotations. And any other annotations you want to make on your references. It has a desktop and a web client, so it's you have, if you want, you can also store your collection online, exclusively online, or mirror it as you like to use it, depends. In the free version, you only have 300 megabytes for storage, which should be enough, let's say, for a typical thesis, but if you do a PhD, you will run out of it most likely with the PDFs that you accumulate. But they offer you the option of sort of outsourcing the actual storage of your files if you run out of this free space of 300 megabytes, let's say, to Dropbox or OneDrive or other web dev storage locations. Yeah, so that's really nice. It's a non-commercial provider somewhere in Austria, I think. So also in terms of data privacy and so on, it should be on the safe side because it's in the European Union. The interface is, let's say, rather similar to other reference managers, also similar to JabRef, because typically a table is the most intuitive way of organizing your collections. So it's in general, it's a three-part interface. You have some organizational features on the left. You have the main table view of entries in the middle. And then if you click on a entry, you have a detailed view of the specific entry that you can also edit, of course, and so on the right, including your nodes, maybe text that you use, and so on. So it has very sophisticated organizational feature in terms of grouping and tagging, managing those and searching those. So that's very nice, especially if papers are relevant for several projects. Then tagging is really a nice way to go, and also the grouping feature that they offer, because they use a very smart, or let's say, very smart way of doing it. They keep a main folder, let's say, or main collection, and then grouping is nothing else than a hidden tag, so they don't put your content physically somewhere else, but just tag it nicely and organize it for you. So, but your main collection stays unaltered. What is really cool, and they improved it actually a lot in the more recent version of Zotero, is now they finally also have good PDF handling. That was a downside in the past. They allowed linking to PDFs, but now they also have a built-in PDF viewer and annotator, like Mendeley had for years already. It was still lacking in the older versions of Zotero, but now they actually have a really good one, and it's definitely also comparable to the one of Zotero. I don't know Citavi. Does Citavi have something like this?
I think they do, but I used it like 5 years ago.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Yeah. I think more and more tools go this way because it makes a lot of sense to have all your stuff in one place. Metadata, PDFs, and your notes, annotations on these files. So it gives you the option to do annotations in the PDFs right away. Different colors and so on, very nice. We will see a possible use of this coloring scheme that is built into Zotero right away for annotations. What is really nice is they make it easy for you to add new entries by offering, for example, a browser extension, a browser plugin that works very well with a lot of sites, like most publisher sites, definitely Archive, Zenodo, and so on. So the community, users of Zotero, wrote scripts specifically for those sites that take the content that they have there out and put it in the right way into Zotero. And if it's an open access site, most of the times they even manage to get the PDF right away and linked to the entry, download it, link it to the entry if it's available. Not all publishers allow that. Then you might need to download it manually and edit, but for many sites, it works just out of the box. Also very recommended, it offers good collaboration tools, so you can share your libraries with other users. If you do group projects, group papers, that's, I think, a really good way to go. They're also separate, so this will be copied. If you, for example, drag and drop an entry from your personal library to a group library, you will get a new entry, and not, I don't know, your fellow student will edit in your PDF file, and so no, that's done in the cloud and a separate entry. So these are physically separated. As I said, maybe not so relevant for you unless you work, I don't know, with humanities, fellow students or researchers. Also offers really good MS Word support via a plugin that allows you to, I mean, as LaTeX users, when I show this to humanities students, they're like, really? Oh, this costs me so much time to change these citation styles. As LaTeX users, of course, you know that you can you're familiar that you can change the citation style with a click of the button, and if I don't know if you're aware of this, but these conversations, yeah, they say, yeah, you need to change from, I don't know, author year to number. I said, yeah, so what? Oh, you need a week. I said, what? For what? Yeah, it needs to. Okay, so this also works for Word. Of course, it works for LaTeX as usual. What is cool, specifically if you're told a certain style to use, Yeah, let's say your department demands that you use whatever, a certain citation style, and it's not in there yet in Zotero. There's a very easy way, web-based style editor, to make changes or even create a new style that the citation tool then will use. There's an open format for this. It's called the Citation Style Language, CSL. As I said, mostly relevant for working with Word. Most likely for LaTeX, there will be a style. File management. This is really something that Zotero does, or let's say Zotero extensions do quite well. The built-in features are okay, but nothing fancy. But there is a really cool extension to Zotero. It's called Zotfile, and it gives you the option to do whatever you want. I mean, really, they do whatever you can do with files. Put it, manage, organize it, rename it automatically. I can show you a live demo later how we use it in our group. Really cool, can recommend it. So for example, based on these regular expression, you can automatically rename your files when you add them, drop them to Zotero and so on. This is very useful. They also have any kind of whatever BibTeX output transformation support you want with better BibTeX, also with assigning citation keys, you know, how you want to use, which citation key your entry should carry and so on. You can all configure this very easily via this extension. And since they have such a active community, they have a large variety of other plugins for all kinds of use cases where you could use publication data. Let's say on your website or on a wiki or wherever you might need to put, you know, public reference lists, publications. There's typically a Zotero plugin for it that does it based on your Zotero collection. It makes it quite easy to do that. So to interact with all kinds of systems. Do we see some here? I think this is more the general plugins, like, or to get data in. You want to get data in from an exotic source. There's typically a plugin from somebody who had to endure that before and helps you by providing a plugin to make it easier next time. Really cool. Okay, so in summary, it's definitely from our experience the best tool we found. We really use it extensively in our research group with more than 20 people, excluding students. So if you count all the students over the years that had to deal with it, it's probably hundreds of people, and we are very happy with it. The user interface, I would say, is okay, but it's maybe not the most modern and most pleasing one, but it's functional and it works. Has really good cloud support that works flawlessly, you know, also between different groups and so on, and also within between your machine and the cloud and so on. Really good. Word processors, fine. Really good search, I have to say. If you have a big collection and you want to search it according to very specific, whatever, tags, keywords, regular expressions, combinations of those, it has a very sophisticated search capability. Good import plugins. So via the Chrome extension or browser extension, you can import your publications. Via a DUI, you can import publications. It will pull the metadata just like JabRef did. All kinds of way to get data in there. It's really easy. Of course, you can also just paste BibTeX. If you have BibTeX, copied it from a website, paste it in, it will create the entry for you, or import entire BibTeX files. If you have large BibTeX files, that's all working, no problem. It has many really excellent features, mostly provided by plugins, as I said, because other researchers, other users have encountered a certain problem and solved it for you by developing a plugin. Open source, also free, except for the storage. If you need more than 300 megabytes, then you would need to pay or put your PDFs to some external storage. And really active community. Also nice in terms of portability to know is they use a SQLite database as their storage. So it just resides somewhere on your computer, which you can configure even where you want to put it. For those of you who are familiar with the what is Firefox? And so I think it's Firefox Association, yeah, Mozilla Association. They use this their approach to these profile folders and so on. So you have such a thing. And if you're familiar with this, where they store your data, the same is true for Zotero. Yeah, and of course, if you ever need, it's corner cases now, but if you ever need to edit your data on this level, of course, you can also go to the SQLite database and change this. That might become necessary if you make an error in interacting with your library in different documents, but not relevant. Anyway, saved me some time in the past. Okay, not so good still is there is no DOI-based lookup and completion like we saw in JabRef. I'm waiting for this feature. There is a feature request, I think, from 4 years ago or so, where they said, yeah, this will be in some future release. I really hope they put it in sometime. And also no bulk editing yet. At least the last I checked. It's also a couple of months ago that I checked. But yeah, that would be 2 features that I would say are still missing. That's why I still use JabRef, for example. I export sometimes BibTeX and do my changes in bulk and put it back in. And well, the rest is let's say, detailed complaints. Could be a bit visually more appealing, and maybe, yeah. Of course, since you have more options, more configuration options, you have a slightly steeper learning curve than, let's say, if you use Mendeley or JabRef, who just has fewer features. Then, of course, you don't be aware of so many features and get familiar with it easier. But in general, really, our clear recommendation for a reference manager, you see why, and even better than knowing why is we should just try it, I would say. I would say we take another, 3 minutes, maybe bathroom break, and then we come back here and actually get our hands dirty, and I'll show you a little bit in Zotero, okay?